Okay, we are back. So hello again for the next part of the presentation of tomorrow. So this one we present with Sébastien. We'll do the first part and then we'll explain to you the results that he had on this simulation. So we'll talk about blocking and advanced blocking. So first, the blocking principle. So we start with some stencil, so 3 by 3. I explained that this morning and yesterday also. And if we read 3 rows at a time, we'll have 3 rows in memory, so cache, hopefully. So in LD1 cache, so for my laptop, it's 48K. For mostly architectures, it's 32K. So we have to be sure that this part is in the cache to have fast performances. But we have 4 tables. So we have to fit U, V, and the output of U and the output of V in the memory. Or the Laplacian, if you do the computing with the Laplacian, it's the same problem. Each float, it's 4 bytes. So if we do the math, in 48K, because it's way simpler, we can say that we need 3,000 floats per block to fill right the L1 cache. Or per block row, we need 1,000 floats, not more. And of course, we compute in full HD, so it's 1920 by 1080. So of course, it's bigger than 1,000. We have a problem. And we will have this kind of stuff. So we have the first 1,000 pixels in the L1, and then we have the 920 pixel in the L1 after that. And once we reach the end of the first line with the mouse here, we don't have this part anymore in the cache. As Adrien explained yesterday, we get the last value. We keep the last value, but not the old one. So the old one disappeared, and we have to reload them into the cache. So we have to reload everything from the cache L2. So it's quite a bit more costly. And we have a block. We want to reuse the L1 cache as much as possible. We still need to put 3,000 floats in the block. And the question is how to order everything. So we can say, okay, let's do 30 by 100. It's possible. It's not a power of 2, but it's possible. Or we can previously do the computing. So if we do that, we can overlap some block because we want to compute the border correctly, of course. Each block have to be connected, but to know what is the value of the neighbors of the block. And so if we don't have block, we do 3 reads from the L2, so it's quite costly. And if we have a block, we do 3 reads, but 1 from L2, because the new data we want to load, but the data before are already used, were already used. We don't have to put them again in the cache. It's much better for this computing. So in terms of implementation, we do not have quite the same implementation with Sébastien, but it's roughly the same. So I did 2 parts. So part for axis. So a block is 2 axes, basically. So we have 1 axis to have a beginning, an ending, shift, padding, stuff like this. And in a block, we have 2 axes to make sure that everything is fine for the blocking. And then we have this kind of stuff. We have a stride, as you can use in NumPy, for example, to have your path. So in compared to what I explained before, you can see the stride as this side with a padding also to have the same here. So it's kind of a view, if you want, to explain that in another way. And we have also a stride in the column because we want to be as flexible as possible, because we will see that in the advanced blocking, we need this kind of features. So as we did this morning, hopefully, normally we can play with this kind of stuff to get the best size of the images as possible. And we will take that as a base for the block size, because we get the best performances here. So let's build on top of it and let's reuse them. But there is one problem with this concept. We have one load in L2 and two load in L1, so it's nice. But the point is, once the block is treated, we drop the block entirely and we load the next one. And we repay all the descending of all the data into the L1 cache. And as Sébastien said, it's a pity, because we wait forever to go down in the L1, and then we drop everything and we restart again. So how it's possible to say, okay, let's take advantage of one stuff in the Grayscott simulation, that's once you have a block, you can compute the next iteration inside the block without any communications, without any connection to the other neighbors. And if I explain that in one dimension to start, we can say, okay, we have the first time here. And so to compute the next iteration of this block, I can do something like this. So I cannot update the border because I don't have the information of the neighbors of this block. But inside the block, I can, because the information didn't spread yet in this path. So I can reuse all I've got here, and I can continue with this block for 4 times, for example. And that being said, I can reuse 4 times the data I put in my cache, and not only once. It's much better. And here it's quite costly, but we can think a bit and say, okay, but we don't need the inner value. So we can have something like this. We have the time 1, and then we update the inside, and we update the inside, and we update the inside, and we do not need much memory as before. We need the same memory as before. That's Sébastien. It was not my idea. It was the idea of Sébastien. And so to continue that, we need the same number of memory. And if we take a block of 8 cells, for example, we will have some update like this. So we update each blocks again and again. And then we have to do the opposite, the anti-pyramid, if you want. Here it's quite simple because it's 1 dimension. In 2 dimensions, we'll see that it's much complicated. And we get this kind of stuff, and we get the full path. So it was for 1 dimension. So we have this classic 8 cells here. So first we have the first image, and then we have the second image. And in the Grayscott, since the Grayscott is a really slow reaction, we have extra steps. So 32 generally when we want to do some performance test, but you can play with that. And we can take advantages of that, because here we need to compute each step separately. But with the pyramid, we can say, okay, let's compute the first one. And then we have the maximum number of iterations that we can have. So not, for example, not totally to the very top of the pyramid, because at some point you cannot vectorize anymore. So you want maybe to crop a bit the pyramid. And then we redo that, and we continue until we reach the second image that we want to do. And here, in terms of data movement, we have less data movement than before, even if we use the same amount of memory. And the last iteration, of course, we have to adapt a bit, because sometimes it's not a multiple of the number of size of the pyramid, so we have to take care about that also. And finally, we have the number of iterations. So if you have a look to the implementation I have in my lecture, you have everything written to know what's going on. So in 2 dimensions, it's a bit more complex. So we have the blocks, and we say, okay, let's shrink the first block until we get the tip of the pyramid. Then we do that for the other block. And then you can do two things. I will show you mine. So Sébastien, it will be quite straightforward. You do the anti-pyramid with a bit of communications. And me, what I do is I change, I shift the anti-block or the anti-pyramid. So I get a cross here, if I show you here. Here I get this cross because I shift my anti-block compared to my pyramid block. And then I can do this, this cross, and I increase also the cross to the outside to fill what's missing in the second pass. I do that for all the blocks, and everything is fine. So there is no explicit communication needed for this implementation because I'm lazy, but of course it's working on one single blade server, not on several servers because you have to some communication at some point. But for single core, multiple core implementation, it's okay. So in 3D, it's something like this. So we are in the past, we update the block together, and then once we reach the tip of the pyramid, we do the opposite, and we get back the value to the time we want. And then we can do it again, depending on the future we want to compute in this method. And so we can ask ourselves, which parameter do we want to play with? So first we can say, okay, I can do a little pyramid in the L1 cache, so it's a smaller pyramid. There is less block in iteration, for example, so I can go less in the future, but it's faster for the data accessing. Or you can say, yeah, but L2 is better because, okay, it's a bit slower in data access, but I can have a bigger pyramid. I can go much in the future. And it's always a balance, as always. So you will have to play also with that to be sure that depending on your architecture, your latency and your memory, which is the best solution, and Sébastien will present its results about that. And also you can crop the pyramid to reduce the amount of time that you don't vectorize well to be sure that you are efficient all the time.
So I will take a bit some slides again to present a bit my implementation, which is a bit different. And so saying the thing in another way, which probably helps you to understand a bit better, because this is a complex implementation. So here we are attacking a complex thing. So just to remind in another way what we are trying to solve. The case we are trying to solve, we have a CPU with several cores on the same CPU and some shared caches like the one which is here. And we have let's say two threads which are running here if I'm using OpenMP, okay? And my two threads, they are fighting on the shared cache to store the data they are computing on, okay? So the idea in some ways is to make some blocking. So we use a limited amount of the L3 cache for making the computation. So trying to make several steps one after one in these blocks before moving to the next block. So I stay in the cache without fighting with the neighbor threads. So let's move here because Pierre already presented the part before. Me, I'm running in 4 phases for my implementation. Sorry, here. Phase 1, I make the big square of the pyramid, and I make the pyramid inside. This is exactly what Pierre has shown to you. Then I make the left border, the top border, sorry, of the pyramid in the reverse side. So I'm making the pyramid going up. I make the left one, which is going up also, and the corners to solve the corners. Here I presented only one pyramid. I need to do the same, of course, for the next one after that. Maybe I can show an example. I have a small player which because to debug this kind of thing, you need to be able to play. So I will show an example here. I'm making the first pyramid, the next pyramid aside. I'm making all the blocks in the cache with the pyramid inside. Notice that you need to compute a bit the cut on the border, so the algorithm to implement is not quite simple in practice. Then when I have done all the pyramids, I will try to fill the part on the top, on the left first. Sorry, I made left and no top and bottom. So I fill the wall, making a pyramid in the other side, going up. Then I will need to make the other line, which lets some holes in the corner, and I cover all the frames I have to compute. Here I made four steps in the cache. I mean, which theoretically I should go 4 times faster. Okay, because I didn't load the cache again. I made 4 steps keeping the data in the cache without reloading it. So if I'm limited by the cache, if it's the case, I should go 4 times faster. Of course, the implementation is not easy. And what I'm presenting here is to say that we are pushing the implementation to the limit, but what we will win with that. So to make the implementation, I'm basing it on an object programming approach. So I have some rectangles to make the blocks, and the blocks I can expand them or shrink them to make the steps. And of course, on the border of on the mesh, I need to make some intersection to cut off the block on which I will compute. So you need a bit of implementation, and you quickly think that if you don't have unit tests to implement this, you are probably taking a long time for debugging by crying a bit in front of your computer. So to debug this, I use let's say 4 approaches. The visual approaches I shown before, the unit test, and I also have an implementation which permits to compute the naive implementation aside the parallel, the optimized one, and which compares step after step if I compute it correctly. So I'm pretty sure that my computation is right. Otherwise, you can be wrong very quickly without noticing. So let's move for a small demo. So I will do here. I will do. I lose. My connection. Done. Lose my connection on this server, so I will do it elsewhere. Not a problem. I just don't have all the scripts. Jupyter Hub, where it is. Where are you? Where are you? Labs. No. I'll close it. So you will be able to make the demo also aside. I just make it first, and we will do it together after that. I shared the code in my virtual machine, so I will give the access to the Docker after this demo, so you will be able to play. Up. Terminal. Zoom. Okay, so I hope nobody is computing at the same time than me on the computer, otherwise I will have some strange results. So I need to build. I will do it again, so you will be able to follow and make it yourself. No. After that, I compile. So you will notice here I have several implementations which pass. You see L1 blocking, L2 pyramid, L2, L1 pyramid, because I tried to make pyramid inside pyramids. These don't win, but I tried. L3 pyramid and L1 blocking. So my implementation, if I do run-o help, I have a list of scheduling implementation inside my algorithm. So I see sec, which is a sequential naive approach, just looping over all the arrays in sequence. There is OpenMP, which is just putting a pragma OpenMP. We will go to look at the code after that, making an OpenMP over the top loop to be parallel. And I try to make OpenMP with L1 blocking and OpenMP with L2 pyramid or L2 pyramid with L1 blocking. So I will try some of them here. We will first run -O sequential, which is taking a certain amount of time. So here I'm printing the time in a cycle per cells, which is 4.3. So we made 11 seconds here in sequential. This is on must. Then I try OpenMP in parallel. Not fairly better. Why? Strange. A bit better. So I was at 3 before. I should do that. Rep real time. Be simpler. Sorry. So it took. I hope nobody is running at the same time than me, otherwise it will bias my results. 14 seconds. There is someone running on the same machine. I don't have a stop. Anyway, we will see it's OpenMP. So before we were running at roughly 7 cycles per cellule. Here I'm now averaging between 2 and 4. It's not stable. 10 seconds. I win a bit, but not too much. I'm in parallel. Now I do OMP L1 blocking. So the blocking Pierre has told to you. A bit faster, 2 seconds. And we can try the pyramid. So let's say L2 pyramid, L1 blocking. So I'm making a pyramid and I'm blocking inside the pyramid. So I have a pyramid on the L2 and I'm making some blocking inside the L1. Blocking inside blocking. Right, and I need to put the number. I can put the number of forward steps I'm making. Forwards 10. Forward 2. 2 seconds. So here I win not nothing. I mean probably I win nothing. So we can try on the L3 on this machine. I don't know if I win with that. I will be a bit slower. So here I have the impression that the L1 blocking is the same performance than the pyramid. This is a bit the impression it gives. I can make a run on my laptop. It depends on the processor. In practice, what you win. If I run on my own laptop, slash run -O sec. Rep. Because of course it will depend, the benefits of the blocking will depend on the ratio of the speed between the caches and how much I'm filling the cache, okay? So here, 13 seconds in sequential. In OpenMP. Oh, strange. We will see that after. OpenMP is not very fast. I will show you some plots. It will be easier to read the number, but I just want to make the demo in front of you. OMP L1 blocking. 2 cycles, not very efficient. And now I will do L3 pyramid on this CPU. Maybe I can to zoom here. L1 blocking. Ah, faster. here the pyramid is playing. So I have some stuff which run in the background, so it's not stable. 11 seconds. A bit faster, but I forgot something I will discuss with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday. No, tomorrow. So MP, because I didn't boot the thread. So the threads currently they are moving from one core to another. Okay, and me I'm trying to stay in the cache of the core. So if the data is in the cache and the thread is moving aside to the next cache, there is a problem. So normally, ideally, OMP proc bind equal true, which I didn't did in the previous session. Results which are a bit more stable. And now 8 seconds. Okay, so I win a bit of performance on my laptop. So I will show you in terms of plots. Because up to now, you think that probably this is some efforts which are not really important. I mean, a win which is not very high. Because I'm on a Core i7 with 4 cores. 4 cores and 8 threads, because two threads per core. So we have here the sequential version, which is here, non-blocking. And I see what I made. I mixed. No, this is the OpenMP version. So OpenMP, there is a problem here, no? OpenMP in sequential, it's far slower than sequential. Damn. So if you give a look with Macao, you will see one thing. It's something which arrives most of the time in OpenMP if you don't take care. And this is not so much easy to fix. Where is my OpenMP loop? If I go in simulation, scheduling, or kernels. Kernels enroll. This is the one I'm executing. I have two for loops here. The for loops over the block. And I am just adding a parallel OpenMP4 on top of it. The problem is that what the compiler is doing when you have this pragma, the compiler is adding a lot of stuff around the loop, and sometimes it makes the compiler disabling the auto-vectorization because the function now becomes too complex. So in practice, if you look with Macao and this code, my OpenMP code is not vectorized. So I have a small problem here. The good point is that with the L1 blocking, I have the loop with the pragma. I can show you the code to help you to understand. Where's my code? L1 blocking. L1 blocking here. For the L1 blocking, it's like this. I have a sequence of blocks which calculates the different blocks I'm using. I made some iterators in C++. And I have a pragma parallel for to run several blocks in parallel. I take one thread take one block, the other one take another block. And they spread the work like this. And I'm running the sequential version. So the sequential version is still vectorized this way because it's in a function outside of the complex code of OpenMP. So I have a small problem here because my OpenMP code is not parallel, where my blocking one in OpenMP is parallel, is vectorized.
Sorry, I have a question. Yeah. Just what are the numbers after OpenMP? Like you have 1, 2, 4, 8.
The number of threads.
Okay.
So I'm looking the scalability. Okay, here.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I'm running sequential. Always check with sequential because at the beginning, I was running OpenMP with 8 cores. I think, yeah, but I win a bit, but not too much. Why? And if you run the OpenMP in sequential and you see that you have such a big overhead, that the OpenMP version is already broken. Just not for the parallelism, but for the vectorization. So the blocking, it makes me win a bit because it's in orange here. So I'm a bit faster than the sequential version. And I'm scaling a bit more with the L3. The L3 pyramid blocking, I'm scaling a bit more because I'm faster than the other versions. Okay, So what I win in practice is a bit what I have here. This kind of a factor 2 point something. Okay, this is already a big win. Big, we will see that we can win a bit more after that. Don't forget that I'm using more threads, so we can make the same plot by plotting the number of cycles I'm using per cell, multiplied by the number of threads, kind of making the scaling factor if you want. Okay. I'm not scaling perfectly because if I look with 8 threads or 4 threads, I'm increasing a bit the execution time, total execution considering the resources I'm using. So it's scaling a bit until 4 threads, but after it's not scaling anymore. Okay, compared to the sequential version. So here it's on an 8-core machine. So we can try on a larger one with 64 cores, the one where I wanted to run. It looks like this. So of course the OpenMP version is not running well, so I cut the plots. And we can see that again, we see that with the blocking, here I tried with L3 blocking or L2 blocking, we are winning still a bit of performance. Can plot again with resources. We can see here that we scale up to 16 threads, roughly. After that, we start to pay a price due to the scheduling or something we will see Friday, which I forgot here, to scale on a large machine. But here, don't forget, we are using an HD image. So as Pierre has told you, the image is taking 30 megabytes, which on the cache of the AMD EPYC Milan has a cache of 32 megabytes, which means my pyramid serves to nothing because the data is already inside the L3 cache. Okay? So in theory, I can make the measurements, but I don't have access anymore to this cluster, so I need to try elsewhere, and I'm not sure of the results on this machine. So I can try on the machine here to run in OpenMP L1 blocking, OpenMP with dash resolution 8K. So I increase the size of the problem to use more data in the cache. Forget the binding. In OpenMP all the time, OMP proc bind. I will explain tomorrow and a bit Friday why. So I will not avoid to make it here because otherwise my results will be broken. So I don't test it on this machine, so I hope I will not have a demo effect. So already we see 0, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 cycles per cell. Okay, without blocking, 31 seconds. We can do L1 blocking. Not really faster. I let it down. I should have reduced the number of steps because it's larger. Anyway, it looks a little bit better. The eyes. But not too much. 30 seconds. Yeah, we win 1 second. Now I can try L2, pyramid, L1 blocking, and 10 steps forward because I cannot do more with this size, the size I selected. Oh, looks faster. So we were at 30 seconds and we will finish at 13 seconds. Hopefully not a factor 3, but close. Okay, interesting. I will show you that we can win more with the pyramid. Because here, what I'm comparing. This I will show you this so you can play with the code. The code, you can give some options to say the cache size, the blocking size you want to do in every cache level. So you can try with several values, and you will see that there is a curve which is going down and going up again when you have the optimal size. This is what you will have to play. We can also make a plot about the number of steps we need to do forward to win something, because if I'm making only one step, I made a lot of effort to compute the blocking, etc. And so it will be covered by what I win by making 2 steps. But if I'm making 90 steps or 100, probably I win more. This is a graph which is here. So here you have the blocking in L3 or the blocking in L2. On the 64-core machine, I should be able to access if I will not have lost the network. And here you see that you start, if you make only a few steps, so 2 steps forward, you don't win, you are quite slow. And it's going down, and it's not really stable, it's varying a bit, but still going down. And at some point, we don't win too much. There is a kind of resonance which appears. I don't know exactly why. Probably depending on the vectorization, if my blocks are too small at some point with the alignment. But we see that there is an optimal size. So here I'm running, when I'm running L3 pyramid, I'm running at 90, so here. So I'm a bit not at the top, but close, depending on which machine I'm running on. But don't forget one thing, what I'm comparing here. Up to now, I compare the sequential version running alone on a cluster with 64 cores, so this, to a parallel version running on the cluster. Is this fair? You often use a full server by using 1 core and letting all the others sleeping? No. In practice, what you do if you are running on the cluster here, even if you use 1 core, there is some other guy using the other core side. Okay? Or you launch several jobs of your application to make several runs with various parameters, which will run close together. Okay? So if I need to compare, this is not comparing a sequential version alone on the CPU, but to compare a parallel version with 64 cores with 64 processes running the sequential version. So I will do that. Because if I'm doing that, of course, the processes running on the same machine, they will fight with the L3 cache to put their data in. So just to show an example, this is exactly what I'm saying. So either I run 8 processes in sequential or 8 processes in parallel. Which one is the faster? So if I'm running on my laptop, I can make the experiment on the laptop, and this is exactly what I'm doing, what I used. So sorry, I should have done on 64 cores in flight, but I will need to get my network connection. The sequential version is taking 19 seconds. So the 8 version of the sequential version non-optimized for caching. If I'm making some OpenMP, some L2 caching and L2 pyramid plus L1 blocking, now I'm at 8 seconds, so a factor 2 on the sequential version. So now I'm winning on the sequential version. This I skip, I don't care. But now on the 64 core server, this is even worse because now I have 64 processes fighting with the caches. And now I have these results. Sequential version is 11,500 seconds. And sequential version with L3 pyramid, and the 8 processes doing the pyramid inside themselves, 1,600 seconds. So a factor 7. Quite interesting, no? We can do even more. If I run a 4K image instead of the HD image now, 12x. Interesting, the pyramid, no? I can go 12 times faster on my clusters than if I'm just making a naive version. So it's a pain to implement, but at the end, there is some win if I'm considering I'm in a parallel environment, okay? If you are running alone in your laptops, it's probably useless to make such an effort. But if you are running in parallel in a calculator, which is shared or used by you with many processes aside, it's interesting. Okay. Notice here that the OpenMP version is also a bit faster here, 34 seconds with the L2 pyramid blocking. why the sequential, the 8 sequential and the parallel are not at the same level? Any idea? Because in principle, I'm running either 8 times the process or either 64 times my process in sequential or 64 times my process in parallel. This should be the same, no? In principle, why it's different? What OpenMP should do for every step when there is a pragma? OpenMP is a fork join approach. It's join, it forks to make the threads. After the loops, it join, fork again, join, fork again, join. And every time it join, there is a cost, okay, which we see here. Plus one thing which I'm missing, which I will discuss with you tomorrow and Friday. So in practice, I can win again a bit of performance on my OpenMP version.
Which one is losing from the way?
The OpenMP? This one. Which one? Sorry.
One is losing from
The fourth one, it's the OpenMP version.
No, this is the third one.
The third one, yeah.
But it doesn't say open.
No, sequential, sorry, yeah. Fourth one, yes, 34 seconds. It's an OpenMP version, so there is fork join, fork join, fork join, fork join. So in parallel, I pay a price due to this fork join. This is the problem of OpenMP when you have a short computation. So if you have longer computation, so a larger problem, it will go closer to the sequential version. But if you don't have too much data to compute in the loop, the fork join makes such that you lose some time every time you join. You know, you spawn the threads, you make a small computation, joining, waiting, creating the thread, joining again, which adds up some overhead compared to the sequential version.
And why does OpenMP break only with the sequential?
You mean
A few slides ago.
when I was
Yeah, this.
this one?
Yeah.
No, OpenMP is the OpenMP naive.
No, what
OpenMP
with no blocking? Why does it break
The
only with no
non-blocking
blocking?
OpenMP.
Yeah.
The non-blocking OpenMP is broken because it's not vectorized.
But why are the other ones vectorized then?
Because as I'm making the blocking, I'm calling a function which is simpler, and inside this function, it's vectorized. I can show in the code again. Thanks for the question. So here, this is the OpenMP version with blocking. Okay, so I have my Pragma OpenMP, which had a lot of codes in practice due to the compiler, creating the threads, spawning, synchronizing, and blah blah. And then I'm calling a function which inside I have the loop where I have the simple loop, which I have the loop. I understand my mistake. No, where I am. Sec. I'm not in the right code. Sec, it's here. Here I have my loop without OpenMP. Okay, this is the code I'm calling in my block. So this code is simple. This is the version of Pierre globally, similar one, not exactly his version. Here it's vectorized because the compiler has only the CPU code. If I'm adding a pragma, like here, just the adding of the pragma makes the compiler having such a complex code that he decides not to vectorize. Because the code is too complex for him. You see? The compiler, I mean, the auto-vectorization of the compiler is not a perfect thing. When the code is too complex, he said, no, I cannot understand this, it's too complex for me, go away, I will do nothing.
And this is non-blocking.
This is non-blocking here. And in blocking, I have the blocks which are called in OpenMP, and then I'm calling the simple function, which is here, the loop. And as this function is compiled outside of OpenMP, there is not the compiler don't see the OpenMP stuff inside the block. The sec function, which is here. There is no OpenMP here, so the function is simple enough so it can vectorize.
And then you can call this from within the OpenMP.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Do you compile them separately? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I compile them separately for the others remotely. Any questions remotely? So I don't have the Zoom to because I don't have the connection. Yes, I have the connection now. Any question remotely? Don't hesitate if you have. So now maybe I will let you play. So I will show you how to access the Docker. So you can go in the slides in the agenda and take the memory profiling images, which are here. Maybe I can paste them in the Discord, so the remote people will have access it to the C++ course. I will paste it, the images. For the one which are here at LAPP, you can directly go to the Jupyter notebook, and you will have access to the VM. Sorry, Pierre, you change the link or? Containers. If you go in containers, Jupyter Hub, and I already have it. Pierre, what was the link? It was. I have my link here. Put a /home at the end of hub. Because you need to switch to another VM, so you need to stop first the VM you had before to switch to the other one. So I will do it for you. So I will be in the same state than everyone. I start my server. I go in Gray Scott's Revolution, and I'm choosing Malt memory profiling. This is where I have the example. So here the problem is that for the people here, you will fall for some of you on the same machine, so you will share a bit the resources, but anyway, you will be able to play. Creating my VM. So what you can do as an exercise is to select a number of threads, thinking to open OMP procbind to bind it, and try to find the right L2 cache size, which is fine for the blocking. In practice, what I tried myself is to take half of the cache for the blocking, which is roughly what is giving the best results. Why it's so long? No. Fine. Demo effect or no demo effect? No demo effect. Fine. So you have a 4 Gray Scott pyramid here. So you should go in the terminal. I will put you the slides with the commands, but I will do it for you here. CD for pyramid. I'm creating a build directory to build inside. Configure. I will put you the command in slides. Configure, make, and then you can play with the options. I will show you the slides so you will be able to make it by yourself. Just notice that for the for the L2 blocking, if the blocking is small, you need to give the dash F for the number of steps we go forward. Otherwise, the computation can stop. It will tell you that there is a mistake, that some squares are too small with negative values. So you give a dash F with a smaller value. By default, it's 90. For the L2 cache blocking, it's 10, which is nice here. And maybe I should add it. If you try with L2 blocking, dash F10. So I can let you try with various blocking size to see how it behaves. Try between if you are running on the lab machine, on a standard server with a CPU which is a bit with some strength, try to block in the L2 and around 500 bytes, 500 kilobytes. This is in kilobytes, the value which is here. So you try between 100 and 4,000. And you will see where the best value is. Adam, I updated the repo, so for the people remotely, I updated the repo this morning, so sorry. Maybe you need to download again the image. I don't know for the remote site if it's a mistake. For those who want also the code, you can probably also install it on your machine quite easily if you take the... I have too many things open. Here you succeed to get the image? Yes. Sorry, I put again the slides. Remotely, there is some troubles or il y a des questions in Discord? Okay. So are there some tools to detect if the compiler doesn't vectorize? Does Macao do this? Yes, Macao is one way to get it. The other is to use some tools like Intel Advisor or this kind of stuff, which will also tell you. Macao is quite simpler compared to using Intel Advisor for this. But yes, you can check. And with Macao, if you verify on the OpenMP version, you will see that it tells you that it's not vectorized. If you should look on the log of the compiler, yes, this is also possible with some compilers. There is some option which can log if they vectorize the function. GCC, I forget, they have one version. There is an option now on GCC to, which is F blah blah. I forget report something. Vec report, no, something like this. LTO même. I forget. Normally there is on Intel compiler there is an option for sure. On GCC I forgot there is one. No, ARM, Macao is not supporting ARM currently, at least not officially. No, it is?
Yes, but
not all CPUs probably. Yeah, not Mac probably.
Yeah, I tested with Mac and the output is shown in
Yeah,
question
it's
expert.
Cortex A55.
He tried,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so it's doomed.
The code I wrote, it should work on most Linux. I don't know if it's running on Mac or not. So if you want to use natively on your machine, it depends on hopefully nothing. So except ImageMagick, but which is optional. So remotely, some of you see some speed up with the blocking? Sorry?
It's normal for it to take
A long
lot
time?
of time, yeah.
The question is how many people are running on the same machine? This
Yeah,
is a
maybe.
question. With which option you tried?
The default. one.
default?
Yeah.
But if many people are running on the same machine, it's probably normal. Okay.
Normal.
If everyone is using 64 cores on the 64 core machine, it's fighting a lot. That's the point. Probably for those here, limit yourself to let's say 16 cores, something like this. So if you are many on the same machine, it's better to. So you know in OpenMP, to limit the number of cores, you OMP num threads equal 16. And OMP proc bind equal true. Yeah, if you are many, probably don't bind. So in practice, the gain you will have with such an implementation, of course, depend on the balance, the cache size, the bandwidth of the cache, the number of cores you have. So on some CPU, probably you will see no gain. Huh? This is possible. Huh?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a problem of core dumped on my laptop, and I
Uh,
don't really understand why.
with the code.
Yeah.
Et c'est run, c'est run par défaut. Forward 8. Mais avoid render. No. Right. Check you don't need. No, it's really good. Probably the render, no? Yeah, if you don't have ImageMagick, probably you.
On the console, so I don't
know
if
okay. I probably don't have ImageMagick, so there is a break if I don't have it.
Okay.
You need to enable them to compile them. So in the version I'm giving, one unit test is broken. Yeah, configure. QWERTY. I didn't enable them by default. Ah, flash. And now we compile and you will have them. One of the tests. If you try to compile the unit test, it's possible because there is some unit test inside. I make some changes in just the JSON output format, and one test is broken due to that. So you will see that there is one which is printing a lot of things, but this is not computing. So you can try if you want also. Remotely, everything is fine to try to play with the demo. Ah, I found again my server. There is a question. So when you have slowdown on remote sites, this is because you're running on the same server, or so here I can make a try by plotting some. Where I have my dot file. Where I still have in my back the for loop. So here I have an example I run on the 64 core machine, for example, for the cache, the blocking size. So we see here that we are going down starting at 128K for the blocking size in the L2. And I'm going down by increasing. So the number of cycles, so lower is better here, until 500 kilobytes. And after 500 kilobytes, as I'm going to fight in the L3, now I'm increasing again the computation time. Okay, so probably you have this curve.
Sorry, can you show again the slide just to have the comments?
The commands here.
Okay, thank you.
So here we are making the case where we configure we compare the sequential version, which is alone on the core, okay, to the parallel version. So you will not see the 12x speed up I was speaking about. For this, you need to launch several times the process. Some of you succeed to get some results, or?
Yes, they have like 250 cycle per cell.
200?
Yeah, it seems a lot.
This is an Intel Core i7.
Yeah, 13 generations, so it should be.
OMP Crossbind spread.
Yeah,
Price
it's
8.
sequential one, so the slower one, but still it's a bit strange.
How much you said? 20 something? No, it should be 8 or. I know. You are in debug, no? You made
yeah.
CMake? CMake release. Or do dot configure it automatically the.
In the
Yeah, if you call CMake directly, take care, because CMake, this is a good example of a real life example. CMake. If you do CMake dot dot, if you do CMake dot dot, which compile mode it's using by default? It's nothing. Nor debug, nor release, nor nothing. So if you call directly CMake and you want to make performance, always add this CMake build type equal release. or release the rel with debug info if you want the debug info in release, because otherwise you don't get the optimized flags. Okay. This is a trick. Huh? I've seen a lot of times the people forgetting this option by using CMake. I don't know why they made this, because it should have been released by default, and then if you want debug, you ask it. But this is by default nothing, nor debug, nor release. And most of the people, sometimes they make the mistake and say, ah, the code is not performant. Yeah, but you compile with auto-free, so... Better? Yeah.
And in the unenrolled version,
Yeah.
I get this invalid kernel name unrolled. When I run.
You need to put...
when I run
no, you need to put kernel underscore. I forgot to remove the...
this. Kernel what?
Yeah, if you make -k help, you will get the names which are allowed. -k help. It will display the kernel. No, without the dash. It will list the load kernels and there is kernel in front. I need to change that.
And this is kernel unroll.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the -o option, for the scheduling, you can do -o help and see all the implementation I made, and -k for all the kernel I implemented. -k help. I played with several versions, so some of them are very bad. Some of them are better. Now, some of you see some gains with the blocking at least.
You recommend us to select those terms?
If you don't use the default value, yeah, 100 is better for your CPU probably.
But in general, how should we select those parameters?
So for the, yeah, good question. So I have the question in general, how I should choose L1 blocking, L2 blocking, or L3 blocking. So answer one, I tried, I test, and I measure. That's a possibility. Or you can make a bit of theory. Maybe I will take the picture of my CPU. No, LS topo. Can I zoom? No, I cannot zoom here. I want to zoom. Ah, yeah, that's okay. If I'm here with a CPU like this, for L1, so L1 I have 32 kilobytes for 2 threads. What should I choose for the blocking? I have 2 threads sharing the 32 kilobytes. So something like half, okay? Don't forget there is probably some other data, you leak a bit, so let's say 10, something like this is probably good. Probably like this. For the L2, same thing. I have 2 threads which share the L2, so I will probably choose 100 something. Okay. And for the L3, I have 8 cores, so I divide 8. So ideally, probably 1 megabyte is fine. Okay. You can make the test globally with the approach I'm using. The value which is matching is roughly not so far away from those numbers. So this is a good point because you don't have to measure all the values, all the choices to find the good one. You can also guess a bit what is good. So for those who are playing a bit with the code, you will see that there is an Hilbert implementation. So Hilbert, this is also another thing. You walk over the pattern, not going straight forward in bounds, but making a pattern which is turning around, with a kind of fractal approach, which also can be good for the cache. To be honest, here it will nothing. I tried.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
How can we make this performance plot that you shown just before.
Which one?
Uh,
Those one?
well, not this one. You have shown another one just before.
Ah, the
Like it was a number of well, memory against time, something like that.
you mean this one? No, where I am here. The one I plot in blue in the plot, this one?
Yeah, I think so.
So here,
Yeah, this one exactly. Yeah.
yeah. This is what I was searching because I don't have any more my command because I lose the connection. So here I made a for loop. We can do it together. So I have a run, let's say it's 8K, L2 pyramid, dash F10 for forward. And what I want to change is to play with this number, the number of blocking. So I can do a for sec, let's say it's 128 to 64, to 4,000, no, 2048, if I know how to write. By step of 64. This dirty bash, the dirty bash thing I was saying yesterday. Here I put this to get the number on the line. X echo $. I didn't put a name. I will paste it in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's say use S for size. So blocking up size. Sorry, I made it and I lose it. Real size. Normally I get it and we dump that in a file. T-a.txt. And I made what for PMP in. Normally, I just try before sending to you. Okay. Ah, I will take the F. Where is the chat? For those who don't have the Docker, you can probably try to download the code. I mean, it's compiling quite well on Linux in mostly anything, so you can also try if you have very big troubles to get it in a container. Where it is. If you go here and you download the repo in the labs, you have the code. So I can paste it in case. Was my run finished? Yeah, I put a lot of values, so. Yeah, I should have probably reduced the number of steps. It's not needed to go, yeah, dash S 500 is probably enough. 800 will be faster. It makes CPU become hot, huh? No? Yeah, so now I can plot in GNU plot. Data 2. And I should have it. I go what I did. I launch it 2 times. You have seen how to make the measurement? You're waiting, it's running. You can make a smaller, less steps with dash S. 800 is better. And if you want to stress the machine, I can also show you the example, the parallel example. You know the thing I was saying, 64 processes in parallel? There is a script, if you go in dash analyze, para. Oh, I need to edit it before. Sorry, there is no options. Here you have the number of cores and the number of tasks and the size of the problem. So I will launch. So here I'm running 64 processes, sequential processes. So we see they are not synchronized, and some go faster than the others because they are fighting to access to the cache. So we will see that some will finish shorter than the others. This is interesting. I wanted to show you.
And if I start now, we're not sharing risk.
Don't launch that on Must because there are many users. You will trash the machine. Here I'm on a server alone. So we see that there is some processes which finish before the others, okay? Because some were slow down. Were slow a bit more than the others. With the blocking, it's a bit more synchronized already. We see it's a bit better. So we will see here that the blocking has some effect. The L1 blocking only. So here we have 41 seconds to run. Again, it's a bit unbalanced. Some finish again still before the others, but a bit more synchronized. 43, so no gain here. Pyramid L3, it's not gaining too much on this machine, but a bit. 12 seconds instead of 41. Now L2 pyramid. And then there is parallel. So 64 times, so it will be a bit slow. 64 times. This you can run if you are on your laptop, but change the number to not let 64, but put 8 or something like this in cores and tasks. So sorry, this is a bit long if I let it go. We can let it run and we will come back to this later. So remind, so the goal is to avoid to fight in the cache. Because if you fight in the cache with 4 cores, it's fine. If you fight in the cache with 64 cores, it's a big battle. Yeah, so it starts to slow down a lot. And we will see on Friday a nice example with that on Grayscott. There is some tricks which is a bit counterintuitive. So remotely, there is some people having some problems with CMake. This is in the Docker or? This is on Romeo support, sorry.
Et là, j'envoie ça aussi.
Non.
Là, je peux. Et tu vas péter.
So L1 blocking is finished.
Ça marche trop bien. Je suis déçu. En même temps, facile.
So here now L1, L3 pyramid, which is running. Some people succeed to get some measurement here. We will see some other stuff about the caching on Friday to better understand what is happening inside those strange thing which is cache. Ça zoom ou sur l'autre?
On commence par ces anciens, ça te fait plus long.
Allez, je fais considérer.
C'est la première fois.
Espace, pas de haut.
C'est pareil, c'est une petite part.
Toi, t'avais pas mis. Ouais, t'as pas mis le scroll back à fond.
Et en total, je suis à 6, 7.
Mais j'ai vraiment de cycle.
Non, mais c'est à moins de 5.
Ah, ok, mais donc je vais pas lancer la même chose que toi.
Mais
C'est parce que j'ai moins de cœur, donc
non, peut-être c'est en fait, donc là tu pas d'administratif, mais tu sais, tu caches.
donc j'ai un cache pour un gros truc.
Je pense que pour regarder si tu lances.
Still running.
C'est run ou MP en fait.
Ah non, c'est ça. C'est de lancer un blanc dans un container, c'est lancer ça. Ah,
So here, L1 blocking is a bit faster than the default version, sequential, but not too much.
non, je connais.
Non, mais ça, c'est on va quand même.
Maybe in the meantime, I can show you the pyramid code. So if you go in simulation, L1, L2 pyramid OpenMP. This I will close. Let's take the sequential one before. L2 pyramid. No, L1 blocking, where it is. L2 pyramid, L1 blocking. This is a simpler. So for the pyramid, I create an object which is pyramid L2 blocking, which is responsible of computing the blocking factor, I mean, all the blocks. And then I iterate over it with first a loop on the number of phases. So I have a number of phases, and the 4 phases I was explaining before. The blocks, the border top, and the corner. And then I'm running on all the blocks. I'm looping on to get the elder root. So when I say elder root, this is the root of the pyramid to increase or decrease depending on how I progress. I go forward for the end step I want to do inside the pyramid, and I make my computation for the different blocks for the basic blocking in the L1 with L1 cache size. Maybe I can show here. So here the implementation is pretty compact, okay, but there is a lot of code in behind just to compute the splitting of the pyramid. It's not so easy to do. Maybe I can show the code. And before I will show the parallel version, so I need to just had to put some OpenMP, just kind of. Here I have some ifdef because I tried several versions. But, so with OpenMP, what I'm doing is mostly where I am. How to explain? So I have the phase, okay, like before. I make my parallel OpenMP to loop on the blocks. So here I get the number of blocks I will generate for this step of the pyramid. I loop over the blocks in parallel. And inside I get, as before, the block over the steps and the blocks, the loop over the block to get the sequential algorithm inside. Okay, so in some ways, the way I splitted it, I just kind of just have to add a parallel for inside the loop in the scheduling. Now all the magic is, and the hard part is inside the blocking pyramid class, which is here. So here the semantic is that I can get a block. I can get a block, and this block I can increase it or decrease it depending on where I am in the pyramid. So let's say where I am, blocking pyramid. Which version I have here? Get block here. So here there is a function splitting pyramid get step, and this is where I'm computing the pyramid size. So yeah, I will not explain the code here. I mean, but let's think that if you don't have unit test to validate this, good luck to get something running. Huh? This is a place where, this is exactly why we have these courses here. I mean, in computer science, if you want to optimize some code, you will have to explore some implementations, not losing your time to get something running, okay? So if you have the unit test, you will be able to explore many things quickly, getting something running. If you don't have, you will be limited in what you can explore. So this is where the unit test gives some nice thing in the development process for the performance. So this is something I did not discuss yesterday, but this is interesting not only to getting something running, but also to getting something performance, because I can go further in what I would do.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Once we have the txt file with a loop, how do you make the plots from that?
To plot it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So you can use GNU-plot if you have it. I forget if I install it in the container. And you can use plots, the name of the file, using, if you want, I can put the command in the terminal.
We don't have GNU plot in the container.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't think about that. And you cannot install it, sorry. But you can look, you can plot them like this in a more readable way, probably. Okay. Dirty shell scripts. Yeah, by eyes you can read, but this is yeah. Or you can take the data. You can take the data and have Gnuplot on your laptop. Huh?
Yeah,
Copy.
I was thinking about making a Python script. That's easier.
Yeah, you can also, yeah. Or you can copy paste in not Excel but Calc.
Yeah.
I give you the no, not here. C++ course. If you make this, you get 2 columns. And,
No, that's fine. Thank you.
so what you should get something is a graph like I close it, like we have seen. But we see the effect, huh? And the effect is quite a factor, a nice factor. I'm not starting at 0. If I start at 0 to not trick you. Does it finish on the... Ah, yeah, it finished. At parallel task 64 on that. No.
Yeah.
So here, we see that the OpenMP version is quite nice, but still a bit slower than the sequential version in parallel. Due to the synchronization, huh? Okay? Here I'm running a 64 cores. Also, I was saying that it was scaling up to 32, 16 more. So in practice, you should make probably a balance if you are running on a cluster using jobs of 8 cores, for example, and several jobs aside, each using the pyramid. This I didn't write. Maybe I can show you a small, just to show one thing about the scheduling. I can come back to my small animation. Build release. So if you want to get the animation, you can get it, and there is a HTML file inside the. I just need to run -dump, -r dump with small pyramid sec. I will try OpenMP. And now I can enable the colors and play in parallel what is done by the different threads. What I did, I didn't reload it. After the run. So in practice, in parallel, this is more what is happening. I'm not in pyramid, I'm in L1 blocking. So L1 blocking in parallel, this is what it is doing. Huh? The blocks are done, each thread has his own location and is computing. Oh no, this is pyramid here. I was saying it's not. So you see the different threads with different colors which run on different parts. Then it's filling the holes. We notice that the locality is not very nice here. Huh? At some point here, I get some red inside the yellow. So we can improve a bit. And it made all the steps. I can play again. So all the threads are taking a block, making the pyramid in the block for each thread. then making another pyramid aside. Which makes me think that I'm not optimal here. But then the holes. Yeah. Huh? The holes here? You mean when I'm making the pyramid, if I do it in sequential, I will do again in sequential, okay? Sec. This is because I'm making the pyramid, okay? The next pyramid, which lets some holes in the middle, because I didn't compute it what is inside, on the border of the pyramid. Because I cannot, because I don't have the data yet. So next pyramid, and now I will fill the part in the middle horizontally, going up like this, okay? Now again going up vertically, and it lets some holes. You can ask one thing, why, maybe I will do that way. Yeah. You can ask myself, why here I don't make a column here directly? The problem is due to the parallelism. I mean, if some threads has not finished to compute, I cannot use their data yet. So I need to ensure that the phase is finished before making the next part. So it lets some holes, because when I need to fill, if you want to be sure about the completion, you need to let those holes and solve them in a later phase. So you have to make some draw if you want to understand that. This four-phase part of the pyramid, if you want to do it in parallel, this is a bit difficult. But yeah, that's the point. I can do again in parallel if you want to see again. If ever you want to play with the pyramid on your laptop, you cannot do it in the Docker container because you cannot get the HTML file opened in the web browser. I can put it to you in case. Yeah, this is a dirty thing. You need to build in build this dash release, because this is where the HTML file is searching the JS file with the data. I can make it here. If ever you want to generate it and look at it. And then you open the HTML file, which is in the root directory. But you will not be able to open it in the Docker container, because it will just open the code instead of displaying it. So I don't know how to do it inside this. Where is my container? Because this is this file you should open, but I don't know if someone knows how to open an HTML file inside the container. I don't know how to display it. But if you are running locally, this is what you can do. There is some text. So is there some lazy solution like compiler optimization that does blocking factor in Intel compiler? The compiler, no, you cannot too much play with that. I don't know. The problem is that the blocking size, the blocking way is mostly dependent on what you are programming. This is a bit on your side, not too much on the compiler side to guess what is good. And to make it in the compiler side, this is very hard. So for this, I will not trust the compiler, as Adrien has said. I mean, if you want to make such blocking like this, there is some libraries which help you to make it. Some DSLs, for example, Pochoir is making it. But if you want to make it in your own code, you have to make the implementation by yourself. I don't know some libraries which help you to do it. But just to show you that vectorization is not the only path to get the optimization. If you want to really use a 64-core machine, you need to take care of the cache. This is very important on the performance. So when you are running on a supercomputer, all need to be done. And maybe we will stop here to make a break. Nice. We start at for 5 minutes? No. 4 o'clock? At 16 o'clock for the coming back? Break for everybody until 4 o'clock. You are free.